And I just wanted to start off and apologize to Kathy Barbini because we had a little technical glitch, and her call, we had Kurt on twice. So tomorrow we are going to post Kathy's call again. And I am going to talk about her call, though, tonight so that we can sort of stay on target. But I'm very, very excited. And I'm going to start this conversation tonight with a quote that's one of my favorites. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive. And go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. That's by Howard Thurman. And I know I used that quote when I was actually sending out information to the 50 creative activists that I invited to be part of this conversation. Some didn't have the time or to do it at this moment, but I think everybody resonates with that quote, and I think and I'm just blessed that I can share it with you tonight. And the people who we interviewed, that I had this blessing of having conversation with, they are people who have come alive. They care, and they light up the world with their work. So the first person I'm going to talk about today is Cynthia Kersey. She's a speaker, an author, an entrepreneur, a national columnist, team coach, chief humanitarian officer for a nonprofit, the Unstoppable Foundation, whose focus is to ensure that every child on the planet has access to a lifelong gift of education. When I talk to her, she's also part of the Transformational Leadership Council in California. And I heard her the very first time, I think it was 2 years ago now. I had gone to Mary Morrissey's Dream Builder Live, a conference in California in January, and Mary brought her up on stage to talk, and she shared her story, and it was so powerful it just stuck with me. And then when I was thinking about doing this conference, it just kept coming back to me because both the last 2 years I've gone, and I do believe in going to the same conference over and over again because you go into a deeper level, you learn more and meet new people, and I heard Cynthia's story in even a greater way. So I'm going to just share a little bit about her today because I don't want to give it all away, and I want you to listen. But her Unstoppable Foundation focuses on. They believe that every child on the planet should have access to a lifelong gift of education. And she shares her collaborative work with an organization called Free the Children. And they have this, what they call based on 5 pillars. For her, it is not only do we build schools, we provide entire communities with access to clean water, sanitation, food and nutrition, healthcare, alternative income training for parents. It's very interesting. As she went through was there, she realized that if kids and parents are worrying about schlepping water or sanitation or health, they're not getting the quality education they want. What's so exciting, she's built many, many schools in Africa, and elementary schools. She's built 2 secondary schools, and now they're finishing up their first technical college. And what I love is they're offering leadership and an empowerment curriculum. So as she said, they're prepared with the inner and outer skills they need to succeed. But I'm going to backtrack a little and give you a little bit of her backstory because I think that's as important as what the work she's doing and why she's doing it. She was very successful in the corporate world. And in 1996, she was inspired to write a book. She'd always been inspired by people who led, who had overcome challenges, were doing things in the world that were so powerful and making a difference. And so she decided to write this book. And so she quit her job, she dived in, and then 20 months after she finished this book, she got divorced after a 20-year marriage. And so for the first time, she's a single mother with a book that is, like $14.95. And so what she did is she called a friend of hers, Miller Fuller, who she had met while she was interviewing him for her book. He was the founder of Habitat for Humanity, and he became her friend and a mentor. And she said she called him and told him about the great pain in her life, and he said, you need a greater purpose. And why don't you come with me to Nepal and build a house for a family in need? And she said, okay, why not? So she did that. And he asked her, to think about how many houses do you think you're going to need to build to offset that pain in your life? And it wasn't until she got to the number 100 house that it actually felt bigger than her pain. And she'd never raised money for for anything, and she became, an activist. And that's it. She was raising money for a cause she believed in. Each of those homes in Nepal cost $2,000 to build. And so she went on this journey, and she learned so much about who she was in the process. I think one of the things I'd ask you is to think about, if you were in a crisis, who would you ask for guidance? Who would that be and why? Think about that, and take time to answer that for yourself tonight, before you go to bed. And think about, have you ever been in a situation where giving has helped you get out of the pain? Maybe you paid it forward. Was there a time when you paid it forward and, wow, you felt better than you ever imagined? So think about those things for yourself. One of her quotes that I really loved, we can solve the world's most seemingly impossible challenges through simple individual actions of giving. So I'm going to ask you, how do you share your time, talents, and treasures? We had a conversation about tithing, which means giving 10% of your income. And she talked about, how she raises funds now for the Agape institution in California. It's a church, and when people have dived in and really committed to giving before they actually have the money, how the universe will then pick up and energetically give back to them what they've given out. So I think there's some really wonderful conversations we had going on today, and I encourage you to think about these things in your own life. And she also talks about the power of telling a story that connects you through the heart. So think about, and I think about, even just advertisements. Which ones have brought a smile to your face, over the years? Which ones have stuck in your mind? I'm a little older than a lot of you, but the Kodak cameras were big at one point, and they used to have these beautiful commercials with these children, and then they had this one commercial where the girl was always frowning, and then eventually she started to smile, and then she'd take it back. And there were things like that. Or I know one of the insurance companies in the last few years had a pay it forward commercial, and I was like, I just smiled every time. And so, somebody would help with somebody else, and then it kept going on, and it was wonderful. So it's as simple as that. Think about the TV shows you watch. What stories have actually touched you through your heart and soul? Our second guest today was Kurt L. Toftland. He was an actor, a director, teacher, playwright, and the founder of Shakespeare Behind Bars. Kurt has a really strong vision and voice for change. He talked about restorative justice, reducing violence in the yard, recidivism rates, and the power of working as an ensemble, team, or circle, and asking the right questions based on Hamlet's to be or not to be soliloquy. And I loved it. So he was a teacher in Kentucky a long time ago. That's where it all started. He began work he was the producing artistic director of the Kentucky Shakespeare Festival. And when he began, he created an educational program which he took through K through 12. As he said, he loved working with outcasts, as he called them. He demanded that they all work together, not isolate kids, pull them out of classes. He always wanted to include everybody, and it shouldn't be, bringing race, religion. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, whatever your upbringing, whatever your, quote, disability or ability. He wanted everybody to work together on a team. And so he would create these theater pieces, these ensembles, and work with kids. So my question to you tonight to think about, were you ever an outcast? How did that feel for you personally? Can you remember that experience? Then think about, when have you been part of a team? What was that like? Maybe you were part of an a cappella singing group or a band or a sports team. What was that like for you? What were some of the benefits of being in a team? How did it change you? Now, it was really interesting as Kurt talked and told this story, how his passion morphed into kids on the street and juvenile delinquents. So he started working with a trained psychologist who actually loved the Bard, as he said. And so they put together this program at Luther Luckett Correctional Facility. And he said that was the beginning. And it was just amazing. And he said 22 years later, one of their original circles is still going. So I love that. You're going to need to hear more about what they've done there. And think about that. You know, when have you been part of something that's lasted that long? And he talks about the idea of building trust within a circle and how important that is. And he said, and I asked him, so why Shakespeare? Why the arts? And he said, because every human being has an artist within them. And somewhere along the way in the educational system, it's lost. So is that true for you? Was it lost? Were you much more creative as a child, and then as you got into reading, writing, and arithmetic, that maybe it got lost, and you didn't activate your imagination the same way, or play, or step out of that box that you built for yourself? And I asked him, so why Shakespeare? Specifically Shakespeare. And he said, well, he felt that people that everybody who's experienced a trauma, and especially victims, who are victims and perpetrators, people who have been in jail, are often victims first, of some trauma. And he said that Shakespeare covers every trauma there is. And he suggests that we need words to work through it, to heal. And so that's one of the reasons he uses this. He gives people Shakespeare, and I asked him, so which piece should we be looking at? And he said the soliloquy, to be or not to be. And he said the larger question is, who am I? And he breaks down, there's 4 questions that he thinks are really important that everybody should be asking themselves. And as we've talked in the past, it's really, I believe questions are empowering. And so the first one he said is, who am I? What do I love, which I use all the time? How I live knowing I will die, because we are all going to die. And what is my gift to humanity? It takes courage to answer these questions, to dig deep inside. And I suggest you get a journal, take time, set an intention for yourself every day. Set aside 15, 20 minutes a day just to explore these questions for yourself. And if you want a very specific format, you can purchase my book, The Creative Activists Make the World Better, One Person, One Action at a Time. It's broken down into 6 chapters. And for each chapter, there are 6 people who tell their stories, similar to the people you're hearing today. And there's 3 personal development questions and a take action steps. So it's very systematic in taking you through a journaling process so that you can know exactly who you are at the end of this book, at the end of these calls. And so I suggest you do that. And you can find my book on Amazon. And if you have any questions, you can contact me, Ray@thewinningadventure.com. And finally, I'm going to talk about Kathy Barbini, even though you didn't get to listen to her, but you will tomorrow. She is an amazing woman. She's the founder of Big Voice Pictures, or co-founder with her husband, Simon Weinberg. And Simon, I actually interviewed for The Creative Activist, so he's in their book. And but I had always wanted to talk to Kathy because Simon was on one side of getting out the movies and distribution, and Kathy was actually the filmmaker, the director, and so I wanted to talk to her. But I want to talk about, she did The Healing Years and Boys and Men Healing, and she's done other films, and she's actually won awards for through MTV and the Discovery Channel. She's done some amazing pieces. And so you can find out more if you go to her website. Just go listen to our conversation. We talked about her creative process, how she decides on a project, funding, some of the challenges of being a creative, the importance of self-care and a spiritual practice, and what filmmakers can do today to get their films made that are slightly different than when she started. So I think some of the questions that we explored, and I think that were interesting, is I asked her about who inspires her. And, oftentimes I'll get the answer, oh, Oprah, or a person, an actual specific one person, my mother, my aunt, my uncle, Abraham Lincoln, And she gave a list of qualities, which I love. She said, people who are passionate, compassionate, honest, generous, people who believe in justice and who stand strong for a cause, people unafraid to face the depths of who they are and go through whatever they need to go through to find the truth of who they are, and people that can actually bring that into the world through relationships, through their work, through creativity. I love that. And I was like, wow, that was just an unexpected answer, and it made me wonder. So, who inspires you, and what are the qualities they possess for yourself? That maybe you have, maybe you want to develop. Who do you look for to connect with in that way? Another piece that we talked about, beside the basics, about fundraising and digging deep and writing grants and production and distribution. She talked about her mentor, the person who really helped her succeed and help her find herself on this path. So I think it's really important. Who is your mentor? And where did you find them? Are there anything, is there something, a skill you need to learn? Think about, what do you need to succeed on your chosen path? So I think these are all raised by the conversations we had, and I think you'll love going and hearing Kathy's conversation tomorrow. Her first film was The Healing Years, which was successful, she said, because it offered hope. It was the first movie of its kind at that time to talk about healing from sexual abuse. There were a lot who were addressing the issue, but this it offered hope. And so I asked her, so what did it say? What were some of the healing tools? And she said it talked about joining a community, finding a safe space to share your story. And that resonates with me. It's something I totally believe in, that we all have to find a way to share our stories, to find a safe space, to find someone who will support us and love us and hear our stories, because that's the only way we're going to transform them. We do need witnesses. That's, coming from my own story. As you know, I was sexually abused as a kid, and having to find those people who would listen to me and not judge me, because, I was so hard on myself. I needed the compassion, I needed the kindness, the generosity of other people, but also having that witness is a big piece of my growth and evolution, and knowing that I was more than my story, that I could offer much more. I had gifts and talents, and it just took me to a whole new level. Excuse me. And then the second movie that they did, she and her husband, was called Boys and Men Healing. Excuse me. It's a documentary about the impact the sexual abuse of boys has on both the individual and society, and the importance of healing and speaking out for the male survivor to end the devastating effects. The film portrays stories of three courageous, non-offending men whose arduous healing helped them reclaim their lives, while giving them a powerful voice to speak out, take bold action toward prevention for other boys. They've used this film in many, many ways. They've gone around the country for years to conventions and meetings and sharing this film and the stories, and Simon especially speaks out on this subject. And they created a program about a hero's journey. So what's your hero's journey? What have you overcome? And, the hero's journey comes from there's different steps, and who you met along the way, and how have you overcome them, and so start thinking about that. And you can look it up. Joseph Campbell, he was the first one to really talk about the hero's journey, and I think that's a really wonderful place to start. I think also she talked about the incubation period, that sometimes we're in limbo. How do you decide what's your next creative project, and how do you allow time? And how do you allow that to unfold? Because I know I want to jump right in. I'm a person who has a million ideas. And how do I sit and know what's the best one, which is the one I'm meant to do at this particular moment? And sometimes she talked about your calling shifts. So you have to really hone in and listen to what is the next right step for you, And what are your priorities at that time? Kathy was talking about she's now an empty nester. Her son, graduated high school, and she realized it was really important to be home and spend time with him, and so she took sort of a hiatus before she started her new film that she's been working on. So think about all these things, and I hope you're downloading these pages every day. There's 3 questions I ask you, and it says, what did you learn today? How are you going to apply it? What is one action step you're going to take in the next 24 hours? And at the bottom of each page is a different quote that's inspired me. So one of them the other day was, change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And that was by President Barack Obama. And so that's really important to me. So, I suggest that you keep a book of quotes, things that will inspire you, especially, there are moments you all feel down and, why am I doing this? This seems so hard. I'm not getting the results I want. And so we have to find ways to support us during those times because we're all human. And so I think quotes are a fabulous way. And the last thing I want to share with you tonight is my inspirational video, How to Change the World, a Work in Progress by Kid President. Now, this was put together by an organization called Soul Pancake. Rainn Wilson, who's a comedian, put this together, and I discovered them a number of years ago listening to Super Soul Sunday, Oprah's program, and I love them. And there are some that just rocked my world. They did one where they had ball pits set up, and they put 2 adults together, and they said, you can't get out until you find something that you can talk about that you're in agreement with, something that's similar, and some of the conversations were amazing. And then they had another one that I loved is they put up a big piece of lucite, and they had people paint inspirational words on it. So those are all ideas I love, and I would love to forward them and do them all over the world because I think it's really wonderful. So in this little video, I'm going to play it so you can hear it live. He says, it's a question, how do you change the world? What do you believe? Do you think it's only smart people who can change the world? Do you have to be powerful, have lots of money, be tough, yell a lot? Those are some of the questions that will be brought up in this video. But I'm going to play it now, so give me an opportunity in a second to just set it up. And thank you for listening tonight. And I hope tomorrow that you'll join us again and that we'll have a few people live on the call. It was so much fun last night having live people. Thank you so much. Hold on.
What's the idea of how you can change the world? Some people think you should just complain about it. I won't change the world, I'll just make it bad. Some people think you have lots of money, making it rain everywhere you go. Holler for $1. Some people think you have to be really loud and yell a lot. It's like with a bullhorn shouting, hey you, yeah you, do it my way right now. Other people choose to just make fun of everything. That's dumb, everyone's dumb. It's easy to make fun of stuff, but it's cooler to make stuff. Some people think changing the world can only be done by the smartest person in the world. Just put them in a room, let them figure it out. The solution of world hunger? Food. Wow, that was so amazing. Some people see the bad in the world and they just decide to ignore it, but that won't help anything. Some people think you have to be really famous, super cool. In fact, lots of people think you have to be really powerful to make a difference, like being mayor or senator or president. But the truth is, a title doesn't make you more important. The world is changed by you. It's one person filled with love. And they just have to live it out. So they do something awesome. Then that person is filled with love, and they do something awesome. It just goes on and on and on and on. And the next thing you know, everything's awesome. Some people think it's impossible to change the world.
It's impossible to change the world.
Well, you can see why they could think that. Living in the world with
Has
kids who are
joined.
hungry, people who are homeless, families who aren't happy. I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else, man. But I do know this, though. Next time you feel overwhelmed or totally alone, remember this. Things don't have to be the way they are. The world is changed by ordinary people. Little people living out big loves. And that's what gives the world a reason to dance. So, how do we change the world? At the start of this year, I asked all you guys to make the year more awesome. Time to be awesome again. To make this year awesome for somebody else. Whether it's helping the homeless with Stoptober, throwing a parade for somebody, or giving an inspired gift. You can see my holiday gift guide flashes in here. You help prove that the internet can be an awesome place. Thank you, but we're not done yet. This coming year, let's show the world what awesome really looks like.
Open cake, subscribe.
I love you.
I hope you enjoyed that. I do. And my final words tonight are: the world will be changed by you living out big love. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Bye. This is Ray.